Jacqueline Habersham. I serve as the Executive Director of the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. And as many of you know, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct is responsible for investigating allegations of judicial misconduct against judges, as well as judicial disability. We are a very small agency. We have 13 staff members presently. As LBB has said, we do have one vacant position, and that's an attorney position, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We have 4 attorneys, including myself and the general counsel. We have 4 investigators, and then we also have support staff as well. Our decision-making body, which is comprised, is our commission. They're made of 13 members, and they are appointed members who are appointed by the governor, the Texas Supreme Court, and the State Bar of Texas. We regulate the conduct of judges here in Texas, and both elected and appointed judges. Before I get to my exceptional items, I'd like to say thank you, Madam Chair, for the resources that you've provided us in the introduced bill. As you know, the increased strain of limited resources the agency has experienced has greatly impacted our ability to timely dispose of the complaints that are filed with our agency. With that said, I will go into my 2 additional exceptional items that we are requesting. The first one is a salary increase for the vacant attorney position. As mentioned, during the 80th legislature, the legislature had provided through a contingency for House Bill 367 an additional attorney position. That attorney position had to do with the increased authority of the commission to have jurisdiction over judicial candidates. Presently, that particular position is funded at $81,000. And it's still funded at $81,000. We had not had the opportunity to draw the funds from the comptroller's office. Therefore, it wasn't a part of the GR calculations. So we are seeking an increase in that position to maintain equity among all of the attorney positions going forward. Our second exceptional item is to upgrade our existing case management system. We currently use what's called Time Matters. During the 80th legislature, we did request $50,000 to get a new case management system. However, we quickly found out that we were priced out of the market. And so we went kind of back and forth with different agencies to see whether or not we can use some of that $50,000 to do the upgrades. And we got conflicting information. But what we did do at the end is we did spend approximately $10,000 to make some improvements, but we're going to need several more improvements. So we're asking for an additional amount of money to be able to make those improvements so that we can sufficiently track those deadlines and generate those reports that we need to get pursuant to the legislation that has been passed and possibly the legislation that is proposed at this point. I think that's the end of my presentations. I will entertain any questions any of the senators may have.
Senator Betancourt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How many complaints y'all have on file at this point, and roughly how many come in per year? What's the backlog?
So presently, we have 350 cases pending in the office right now. Generally, I will say this, before disabling the online portal, we would get anywhere from 1,700 to 2,000 complaints per year. Since we've turned that off and we've gone back to, I guess, the regular way of doing things through the mail, we get anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 complaints per year.
Was the difference between those two numbers, is the quality of the complaints better at this point from the standpoint of the substantiation, or does it make any difference?
It's not making much of a difference. I would say maybe about 80% of those cases that come in now, even though they have to send it through the mail, there's still a lot of cases that are frivolous or unsubstantiated.
Okay, so So in reality, you could turn the portal back on and,
It can go back up.
right.
The case filings will increase, and we do have to investigate each one of those complaints that do come in, and that takes a lot of manpower. And when we're investigating a complaint and get to a point where it is determined that that complaint is frivolous, then we've spent less time on that most serious complaint that we could have really investigated.
Sure. In a
fully.
resource-bound shop, I understand that.
Yes.
So, now, and so how many of the 350, how many of those investigations do you clear per year? What's your run rate? What do you clear?
So
If you got 350 in backlog, how long does it take you to work your backlog off?
So right now, our disposition rate is roughly at 4.37 months.
Okay.
That even though we have 350 cases pending now, that's not the number of cases that have been filed this fiscal year.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm just trying to get an idea of how fast. Now, has there been is there an overarching theme in these as of late? I'm curious.
I don't think there's an overarching theme. I've been with the agency now for roughly 25 years. And what you will continue to see, especially with the complaints that don't really amount to a lot, is people are more upset about the judicial rulings than they are any true allegation of judicial misconduct. With those true allegations of judicial misconduct, of course, we have to go the extra mile to do those investigations. But I will say maybe about 70%, 60-70% are those allegations that have to do with the judicial rulings or, things such as the judge is not wearing a robe or they're, complaining about someone other than the judge.
Right now, so it takes you 4.2 months then, on average.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the, during a year, what is the number of rulings that you hand down? You've obviously got a set of cases you dismiss,
Mm-hmm.
so that sounds like the preponderance of that. So out of the remaining cases that are serious, I guess the best way to describe it, what is the adjudication of it? What's the breakdown?
Are you saying the disciplinary actions?
Yes, I'm
They
trying to
kinda-
understand what actually happens after you dismiss the cases that you don't think are incredibly substantial.
Yes, sir. It fluctuates. This past fiscal year 24, the commission issued 49 disciplinary actions against judges. Thus far, we're up to 7, and we do have a commission meeting next week, as a matter of fact. And I will say in fiscal year 23, there were 62. In fiscal year 22, there was 112. So it kind of fluctuates from fiscal year to fiscal year.
Okay, so but that would seem to indicate a downturn in the number of complaints you're having to watch. You've talked about 112 to 62 now to 49. Okay.
And that yes, that would correlate with us turning off the portal right around 2022, and people are now mailing things in. So that's where the 62 would be picked up in the 49 of last year, and so far 7.
Well, I think it's very important that we allow the public access to a place where they can complain. Now, whether the complaints are valid, that's up to you, the commission. But it sounds like that, the workload level since you've turned off the portal has dropped by 2. Now, the problem is that 112 cases you thought were real, and you're now down to 49. So I'm not sure, maybe you all should have a discussion at the board, because that's 60 less cases that are getting attention that may be a significant problem. Because we've had, Madam Chairman, we've had problems with, judges in Southeast Texas, including one that I think passed away recently that was on judicial complaint. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to make sure the public has the ability to file a complaint and get an answer.
Well, in the interest of just transparency, the 112 in fiscal year 22, that involved mainly the backlog of cases that we had because we had a significant backlog back then. The contributing factors, of course, was the pandemic, and we suffered a ransomware attack where the agency was down for almost 2 months, and we couldn't get a hold of our case management system. And so we were preparing for the statutory timeframes that were about to take effect in September 1 of 2022, I
Just
believe.
how long does the complaint last statutorily?
Statutorily, it's from the beginning to the commission making the decision, it's approximately 270 days.
Okay.
And so the 112, it encompasses some of the backlog that we had. And of course, at that time, we had a different makeup of the commission, and they were doing some things a little bit differently than what the commission is doing now. So, but the 112, we were trying to eat away at that backlog, and we've gotten a handle on that backlog now.
Well, I would just say, I think you got some new board members, and I'm going to stress to them that I think alacrity is very important in this case, is to get them heard, because some of the cases are, just willful misconduct to the point where the judge is just refusing to enforce the law, period, and they actually know it. So, that shouldn't take 270 days to be able to get a ruling out. Thank you.
Ms. Happer, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I really, really want this agency to work, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to go back and redo your LAR.
Okay.
Give me a wish list, okay? What it would take to really make it work, okay? This is very important to the people of Texas. We're really trying to make some big changes here. Does the committee agree with me here? Absolutely. We want this to be a priority. So don't be shy about what you ask for. Believe me, I don't tell anybody that. So, at all. So, does everybody agree? We don't say that. So, but I feel like please do not take this as any criticism of you, because it's not meant that way. I understand all the drama that's gone on for a long time with this council commission, okay? And I understand what you're up against. I do. And that's why I've tried to, pass legislation, try to help, try to do what we can. But we really need to get a handle on this, okay? So think outside the box, start over, and think what would be the real way to fix it. I'm going to ask you to do that for me. Would you? Okay. Thank you. And Senator Perry, you recognize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things, and not to get into further the weeds, but so clearly you get your resources are tied up with frivolous complaints a lot of times. But do you have a policy for repeat offenders?
We do not.
You don't. So if you get a guy that complains up and down the road every week, on Monday morning Joe's going to send a complaint in about a judge.
Yes.
There's no recourse for those.
No, sir. And we
So
also don't have a statute of limitations either.
So in that reform, Madam Chair, I think it's wise to, because how I've got those constituents that love to call, and we entertain those calls.
Yeah.
And we should, but at some level, it becomes a resource issue.
Right.
And so as you go through this, secondly, you got 15 FTEs. I would assume at that small of an agent, every one of them's working on case management studies. I mean, they're really involved in the process.
No, sir.
No?
No, sir. We have three of those 15 are support staff. It's our staff services officer, and we have 2 administrative assistants. We have 4 investigators, and then we have 4 attorneys, and the general counsel, myself, makes 6.
So here's where I'm going. So software vendors have figured out there's no money in selling software, there's money in leasing per user. So at $50,000 request, at $1,500 times 15 FTEs, if they all required access to it, that's $22,500 per year. And looking down some of the case management software that's available, I think $1,500, somewhere in that range is going to get you in there. So clearly $50,000 is going to be a recurring item for a biennium, and it's probably going to go up if you get resourced the way you need to. So in your vendor solicitation, if you will, make sure you're getting the right case management. These are Forbes 500 case management systems
I can get you one.
I looked at. So just kind of in that purview, if you're going to add 5 people possibly in your request, add the per user, but make sure the legislature know that's a recurring and not a one-time shot,
Yes, sir.
because that's the new game in town. At least, there was a day you could go to the store and buy it off the shelf and it was yours.
Yeah.
They didn't update it, they didn't mess with it, they didn't screw with it, and they didn't mess you up with it. It was yours. Those days are long gone. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Campbell, you're next, and then
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So did the commission purposefully turn off the electronic portal to decrease the number of cases that you had to review?
Yes, so to speak. We were preparing to get ready for the HB 4344 to take effect. And
let me-
so we had that huge backlog. So we turned it off so that we can kind of play catch up and
So
not.
I guess I'm going to interrupt you just for the sake of brevity. That's not a good idea. We don't go by snail mail anymore. Leave the electronic going, like our chairman said. If you need more funding, state that, but let's don't disenfranchise those that are used. Society today, it's an electronic world. So let's don't use snail mail for the purpose of you guys catching up. So I would encourage opening the portal electronically for people to use. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Okay, Senator Zaffarini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony today. And as you know, I believe my Chief of Staff, Jorge Ramirez, and I have been working with the Commission on Judicial Council since 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
Trying to address the problems that have been raised today and others. And I enthusiastically applaud the comments and the directive from our chair, Senator Huffman, and hope that you will take that very, very seriously. And I'll be happy to work with you in that respect. But there must be a way, you must identify the strategy, the staff, the mechanisms, the procedures, the deadlines, everything that you need to restore public trust and confidence in the commission. Because there are many of us who believe that the commission in the past has been not protecting the public from corrupt judges, but the corrupt judges from the public. And there are very few of the judges, because most of them are excellent and law-abiding and honest judges of the highest integrity and do very well. But those who are not often are reported to you. So I urge you to just think outside the box and think of absolutely everything that you can do to rectify this problem. We have dealt with matters of life and death related to the decisions of this commission. And I will not raise the questions that I had prepared for you because I assume they'll be answered along the way as you follow the chair's directive, and I don't want to waste the committee staff.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
please get together with us, and we're happy to work with you in that
Thank
respect.
you. And I do appreciate you extending an olive leaf and giving that opportunity to have a dialogue with you about the things that are coming down the pipe.
And thank you for saying olive leaf, because I was ready to slap some people, and I'm not violent.
Yeah, okay, you've got our directive, so
Yes, ma'am.
stay up late tonight working. Okay, I'm not kidding, but thanks a lot.
Madam Chair, real quick,
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Perry, did
just
not.
as an idea for the repeat offender, at some number, they start paying for the cost of investigation. Get creative in what you think would be a real remedy for people that got more time than common sense.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes,
just-
sir,
Or
Senator
just a
Bedford.
simple, ask and answer. You've got to be able to dismiss, repetitive complaints so you can get to the right one. But Senator Zaffarini is correct. We're getting lots of complaints that regular, citizens are really having trouble with certain specific members of judiciary. So you've got to clear the decks and get ready for it.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Zaffarini, you have another question?
Yes, I have a follow-up question. That is that as you develop your proposal, please go back to the very beginning of the source of your authority, the state constitution, and look at the statement in there and look at how that language has been used as a shield for many people. There are many former members of the commission, many judges who have hidden behind those requirements. And one of the alternatives is amend the Constitution. And you and I have talked about that
Yes,
before.
ma'am, we
So
have.
please consider that along the way. And this session, we can propose to amend the Constitution, leave it up to the people of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, next is special provision